My brother put my son in the hospital. It all started when a ball struck him. I pulled my brother into the garage to teach him a lesson. At the hospital, the truth about my brother and his son came out, pushing me to my limit. The judge's ruling divided my family. Hey, Reddit. The sound of the hospital monitor is something that sticks with you once it embeds itself in your mind. A steady, mechanical beat. Too calm for the panic swelling in your chest, too detached for the fear gripping your throat. I sat next to my son's bed, my hand carefully around his, worried that if I held him too tightly I might hurt him. And if I let go, something worse could happen. He was 7, too young to grasp why his arm was in a cast, too young to understand why his uncle wouldn't look at him, too young to realize that adults kept saying it was just an accident. But I understood. I understood everything. It had started with a ball. Everyone kept saying that. It was just a ball. Kids throw balls. Accidents happen. They spoke as if that was the end of it. But it wasn't. Earlier that day, we were in my brother's backyard for a family barbecue. One of those forced gatherings where everyone pretends nothing is wrong because it's easier than facing the reality of how broken things are. The kids were playing, running around, laughing. My son was kicking a ball with his cousin. Not hard, not wildly, just kids being kids. Then the ball bounced awkwardly and hit my brother's leg. Not hard enough to hurt, just enough to annoy him. His expression changed instantly. His face hardened, his jaw clenched, and the warmth in his eyes vanished like a switch had been flipped. "Watch it," he snapped. My son froze. "I'm sorry," he quickly replied. "I didn't mean to." My brother didn't let him finish. Before I could even stand up, before I could cross the yard, my brother pushed him. Not a stumble, not a gentle nudge. A push that sent my son tumbling backward. His foot caught on the uneven concrete, his body twisting awkwardly as he fell. The sound he made when he hit the ground still echoes in my ears. Everything after that became a blur, screaming, running, my sister shouting that it was my son's fault, my mother saying he shouldn't have been so reckless, and my brother stood there, arms crossed, annoyed. The ambulance arrived quicker than I expected. The hospital felt like it moved slower than time itself. And now here I was, sitting in a sterile room, fluorescent lights buzzing above, watching my son drift in and out of sleep. The doctor used words like fracture, monitoring, and observation. All I heard was, "Your child was hurt by someone who should have protected him." My brother showed up 2 hours later, not in a rush, not apologetic, just irritated. "This is being blown way out of proportion," he said as soon as he walked in. I stood up slowly and deliberately. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. "Leave," I said quietly. He scoffed. "Oh, come on. He's fine." I stepped closer. "You don't get to decide that," I said. "You hurt my son." He rolled his eyes and stepped toward me. My hands began to shake. "Security," I said loudly enough for the nurse outside to hear. That silenced him. He left angrily, muttering about how dramatic I was. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. While my son slept, a nurse came in to check his vitals. She glanced at the chart, then at me. "You're his mother?" she asked gently. "Yes." She hesitated. "Has there been previous incidents with the same adult?" My heart sank. "What do you mean?" She chose her words carefully. "This isn't the first time we've seen injuries linked to that household." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Later, a social worker arrived, then another nurse and a doctor who spoke softly. They asked questions I didn't want to answer, not because they were wrong, but because answering would mean admitting something I had been trying to ignore for years. Patterns, temper, history. My brother returned that evening, now angry. He cornered me in the hallway outside my son's room. "Are you trying to get me in trouble?" he hissed, dragging doctors and social workers into this. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see my brother. I saw a grown man who had never faced consequences. "Don't embarrass the family," he warned. I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You put my child in a hospital bed," I said. The family had already failed. That was when the truth began to flow out. Not from him, but from those who had been watching. A nurse pulled me aside. A social worker shared notes. A doctor confirmed suspicions. Not just about my son, but about my nephew. And standing there, surrounded by hospital walls and quiet conversations meant to protect children, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't about a ball. It never had been. What I learned in that hospital hallway didn't just change how I saw my brother. It forced me to decide how far I was willing to go to protect my child, no matter who I faced. I didn't leave the hospital that night. I couldn't. I sat in the stiff chair beside my son's bed, listening to the steady beep of the monitor, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest. Every sound felt amplified: footsteps in the hallway, hushed conversations at the nurse's station, the rustle of paperwork being passed around. I had an unsettling feeling that something much bigger than a broken arm was unfolding, and I was right. The social worker returned just after midnight. She pulled the curtain halfway closed and sat across from me, her posture careful, her voice gentle, as if she had delivered bad news many times before. "I need to ask you a few more questions," she said. I nodded. "She didn't start with my son. She began with my brother. Has he ever shown aggressive behavior toward children before?" My stomach tightened. I thought of holidays, barbecues, moments I had brushed off as discipline, temper, or stress, moments I had minimized. I swallowed hard. "Yes," I said. The words felt heavy, but once they were out, they kept coming. I told her about the yelling, the sudden mood swings, and how my nephew flinched when his father raised his voice. I recounted the times my family told me to stay out of it, the times I listened. The social worker wrote everything down. She didn't look surprised. Later that morning, a nurse quietly pulled me aside. "I just want you to know," she said, "your son isn't the first child we've seen from that household." My knees nearly buckled. By sunrise, the hospital room felt different, less like a healing space, more like a place where the truth could no longer hide. My brother showed up again mid-morning. This time, he wasn't angry, he was scared. "You went too far," he whispered harshly, keeping his voice low. "They're asking questions. This is going to turn into a whole thing." I stood between him and my son's bed. "You did this," I said. "Not me." He shook his head. "You always make things worse." I laughed, not loudly or hysterically, just once. "No," I said. "I stopped covering for you." He tried to appeal to family next. My mother arrived shortly after. She looked tired, older, smaller than I remembered. "We can fix this," she said urgently. "We don't need courts. We don't need officials. This stays in the family." I looked at her, at the woman who had spent years asking me to be quiet, to be patient, to be understanding. My voice didn't tremble. "No," I said. "This ends here." That afternoon, the police came. Not dramatically, not with sirens, just two calm officers asking me questions, taking notes, doing their jobs. My brother tried to argue, tried to explain, tried to reframe. None of it worked. Facts don't bend like family stories do. The investigation moved quickly, too quickly for anyone to interfere. Medical records, witness statements, patterns no one could deny anymore. My nephew was interviewed, and that was when everything shattered. I wasn't in the room when he spoke, but I heard the aftermath, the quiet sobbing, the stunned silence, the way adults who had defended my brother suddenly couldn't meet each other's eyes. The case went to court. I sat behind my son, my hand gently resting on his shoulder. My brother didn't look at me. The judge did. He listened carefully to everything, and when he spoke, his voice held no anger, just certainty. The ruling didn't feel like victory. It felt like gravity, consequences falling where they should have years ago. Protective orders, mandatory counseling, custody changes. The family shattered in that courtroom that day, not because of me, but because the truth finally outweighed denial. In the weeks that followed, my phone went silent again, but this time, the silence felt different, not punishing, but peaceful. My son healed physically. Emotionally, it took longer, but he started sleeping through the night again. He laughed more. He stopped asking if he was in trouble for accidents. One evening, as I tucked him into bed, he looked at me and said, "You believed me." I nodded. My family never apologized. Some sent messages blaming me for tearing everyone apart. Others said nothing at all. I didn't respond because I finally understood something that took me years to accept. Protecting a child will always upset those who benefited from silence. Abuse doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it appears as excuses, as if he didn't mean it, as if I shouldn't make a big deal out of it. And silence doesn't bring peace, it makes you complicit. The moment you choose a child's safety over family comfort, you will be called difficult, dramatic, even cruel. But here's the truth: breaking the cycle isn't betrayal. Speaking up isn't destruction. And protecting your child is never wrong, no matter who stands against you. That's all for today's story. Thanks for watching.